In today's video, I'll be installing this KEIN Fabrication Alternator Relocation Kit, and I'll be installing it in my 1998 RS Coupe that has an 04 WRX engine swap. Thanks for checking out the video, guys. My name's Luke, and you guys are watching the SubaruOnly show.
This is my little SubaruOnly shop. It's a DIY Subaru channel. It's a channel where all I do is Subaru builds and race Subaru vehicles and motorsport events. It's a DIY themed channel where I walk you guys through the steps to get your Subarus back on the road and hopefully do a little racing of your own. So thanks for checking out the video, guys. I really appreciate it.
Okay guys, let's take a closer look at where this KEIN Fabrication Alternator Relocation Kit gets installed. What you're looking at here is actually an 04 WRX engine, which is obviously a turbocharged engine, but these alternator relocation kits will work on any Subaru engine. It could be a naturally aspirated engine or a turbocharged engine, and it could be a 4-cylinder engine or a 6-cylinder engine. So whatever engine you've got, these alternator relocation kits could definitely be an option. And how these kits work is they basically relocate your stock alternator from this position over here where the AC compressor usually sits. That way you free up a bunch of room down the middle of this area, and it allows you to install a reverse intake manifold and have that charged air piping come right through this area where your stock alternator is. And it's basically a necessity anytime you want to run a reverse intake manifold setup on a Subaru engine. Now before we dive into the installation video, guys, I want to thank Sergey Kein and KEIN Fabrication for sponsoring this video. You can reach KEIN Fabrication on their Instagram at @KeinFab, or check out their Facebook site where you can see lots of posts of all the different components that Sergey fabricates for Subarus. He's got transmission mounts and engine mounts, a bunch of different suspension components, and a bunch of different chassis stiffening components, as well as some miscellaneous components like this alternator relocation kit. And be sure to check out his eBay page where you can actually buy these parts directly. And in addition to Sergey and KEIN Fabrication, I want to thank Jeremiah RAINE for helping coordinate this sponsorship. And you guys can follow Jeremiah in his GC8 and all the different motorsport events that he competes in on his Instagram at rain.racing01. Okay, so let's dive into the steps of how we're going to install this sucker. Basically, the first step is going to disconnect our battery, and I'm not going to show you guys that because that's actually a pretty straightforward step. Then I'll move over here to the alternator, and I'll start disconnecting the alternator cables and all the plugs from the alternator. And then we'll go ahead and remove the bolt holding in the alternator, and we'll remove this main accessory belt. Once we have this belt gone and we have all the hardware and all the plugs removed from the alternator, we're going to completely remove the alternator because you need to remove the alternator before you can remove this bracket. And we're definitely going to be removing this bracket completely because this alternator relocation kit from KEIN Fabrication actually has its own bracket that's going to install right here in this area in place of this stock bracket. This stock bracket is actually for your AC compressor and for your alternator. It kind of serves a dual function. So we're going to go ahead and completely remove this bracket. That way we have room to install that KEIN Fabrication bracket and go ahead and install that alternator in that new location. Okay guys, I'm going to pause right here because I have the alternator out and I can show you guys why you need to remove that alternator first. If you're going to remove this bracket, which we need to do for this KEIN Fabrication relocation kit, this bolt right here in the back is virtually impossible to get to if you have the alternator installed. So removing the alternator first is really the only way you're going to get to this rear bolt. That way you can remove this whole bracket and we can begin to install the KEIN Fabrication components. Now that we have all the factory components out of the way, we can take a closer look at where these KEIN Fab components go. So basically right here is where we've removed that alternator, and as you guys have already noticed, I don't have an AC compressor. That's one thing to mention, is you have to have your AC compressor removed to install this alternator relocation kit because you're putting your alternator exactly where the AC compressor originally was located from the factory. So I've got all the brackets removed, and I'll go ahead and grab this bracket down here so you guys can kind of see again exactly where this bracket installed. So basically this is that factory bracket that held your AC compressor and your alternator, and we've completely removed that sucker. So we've removed that guy and that's out of the way, and where the same bolts that guy was, this little bracket will install right here in this bolt, and I'll go ahead and throw that bolt in right now. And this slotted hole you see right here, this will be the new location where you put tension on that serpentine belt. So that's the first thing. That goes in that front bolt right there. And then the other component that comes in this kit is this bracket right here. This is the main bracket, and this sucker actually has these 3 little riser little nubs right here on the bottom. And those riser nubs actually go face down, so you put it like that, and those riser nubs are actually designed so that this bracket clears these coolant hoses right here, or these coolant pipes right here. So this sucker will go in right like this, boom, like that, and I'll go ahead and put those bolts in right now so you guys can see exactly the way it's going to look installed. Basically, I can kind of show you guys. It's going to be like that. Like that. Guys, a little snug. It's kind of hard to get in here with my hands, but I'll be able to get it with an extension, no problem. Like that. Oh, it's hard to get in with my hands. So basically, that's going to be it. This will be the adjustment bracket, and your alternator is actually going to slip over here. So I'll tighten these bolts down first, and then we'll go ahead and install the alternator. Okay, we have the bracket installed, and all 4 of these, or all 3 of these bolts on this bracket went in just fine. The spacing was perfect, and it didn't actually slant to the side or anything. It was perfectly aligned. So the bracket has really good spacing that lines up with that factory bolt hole locations. So that's nice to know, and that's a good little quality control aspect to this component. And this is that other bracket. I left it a little bit loose, so I didn't tighten this bolt all the way. That way this bracket can spin just slightly. That way I can align the alternator and then slide this with the hole in the alternator and then button everything up and tighten it down. All right guys, now that we have everything tied down, I'm gonna go ahead and install the alternator. Now you might have to shave or just kind of trim down the insides of these little brackets right here where the alternator is, because it was a real snug fit for me. And then I'll go ahead and use the factory hardware, but I'll actually replace that factory tab nut with a standard nut and a little locking washer. So I'll go ahead and reuse this bolt. It'll be a tight fit, but it should slide right in. All right, there we go, it's in. And like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and ditch this little bracket welded nut thing. I'm gonna replace it with just a standard nut and a locking washer. And for this side, I went ahead and got a new bolt, and it's zinc coated, so it looks good and it'll stay good for a long time in this engine bay. I'll go ahead and put that in from the back side, because this bracket actually holds this alternator in from the back side. It's a little bit different than the factory bracket, which actually bolted into the alternator from the front side. And you could put a locking washer as well. For right now, I'm just gonna put it in like this, because I'm gonna do some adjustment and sliding on it. And if needed, I'll add a little locking washer at a later time. This sucker is basically bolted in now. The only other thing I need to do is install all the wiring, install a positive cable right there, and then put the belt on and tighten the belt. And like I mentioned, use this slotted little groove right here to put tension on that serpentine belt. So I'll tighten everything down, and this KEIN Alternator Relocation Kit should be fully installed. All right guys, I've got this Kein Fab or Kein Fab Alternator Relocation Kit completely installed. Check it out guys. This kit is looking really nice. That silver powder coat finish is just looking beautiful, or enamel or whatever it is, but it's that silver powder flake metal finish that just looks beautiful, and it's gonna be a perfect color combination for this blue. So that's the kit. As you can see, the alternator is relocated over to the side, and if I was to have a reverse intake manifold, I now have a complete path right down the center here if I needed to have that intake charge pipe going right into that reverse intake manifold. So like I said, having this alternator relocation kit is basically a fundamental step if you're going to do a reverse intake manifold. And I now have it all set up so I can go to the reverse intake manifold when I'm ready to. Of course, I still have to get the bar and everything else for this car. One thing you'll guys notice is that the factory serpentine belt, which is right here, isn't actually going to fit once you've relocated your alternator. This factory serpentine belt is definitely an inch or two too short now, and I'm going to have to get a longer serpentine belt to work with this alternator in this new location. So definitely take note of that guys. If you're relocating this alternator to that side location, you're definitely going to need a longer serpentine belt. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little research and figure out how much longer this serpentine belt needs to be, and I'll give you guys an update in a future video. Check it out guys, Kein Fab Alternator Relocation Kit, and I gotta say I think it looks awesome. I had that big gaping hole on the right there in this engine bay, and that alternator now moved over to that right side where the AC compressor used to be. Just looks a hell of a lot better on this engine bay. Even without having a reverse intake manifold, it just looks 10 times better. Okay guys, I've got this Kein Fab Alternator Relocation Kit completely installed. As you guys can see, this kit looks great. It was an easy installation process. It was very straightforward, and it's definitely a fundamental step if you're gonna end up doing a reverse intake manifold on your Subaru. So I gotta give a shout out to Jeremiah Raines. Thank you so much, Jeremiah, for helping coordinate this whole deal. If you guys wanna check out Jeremiah's Instagram and follow his GC8 and all the motorsport events he's involved in, check him out at rain.racing01. And I gotta give a big shout out to Sergey and Kein Fab. Thank you so much, Sergey, for sending out these parts. And if you guys want to check out Kein Fab, check out the information in the description below. His Instagram is at @fkeinfab, and you can check him out on Facebook, and you can check out his eBay store. So make sure you guys check out Kein Fab and pick up some suspension parts or some chassis parts or some miscellaneous engine parts like this Alternator Relocation Kit for your Subaru. Thank you so much for checking out the video, guys. If you have any questions or any comments, please go ahead and leave them in the comment section. If you guys need any automotive fluids or any automotive parts for your Subaru, make sure you check out my Amazon store. You can see the link in the description below as well. Thanks so much for checking out the video, guys. I really appreciate it. My name is Luke, and you guys have been watching the SubaruOnly Show.
Thanks again for watching this video, guys. As you guys know, I'm a diehard Subaru enthusiast, and I've also had the opportunity to be involved in motorsports for over 2 decades now. But I'm also a professional hydrogeologist, and I've actually spent years in laboratories performing experiments where I studied the flow of fluids using the properties of physics and fluid mechanics. In these YouTube videos, I'm actually able to combine my experience from the laboratories and all the research I've done with my experience from all the motorsport series I've been involved in and my passion for Subarus. If you have any professional inquiries about Subaru-related R&D or digital marketing and media, you can contact me at SubaruOnlyShop@gmail.com. Thanks for checking out the video, guys. I really appreciate it. I hope to hear from you soon.